Most people drive right past this park without giving it a second thought.
But buried in the woods back here helped fund the American Revolution, fueled the Civil War, and began the U.S. coal industry right here in the suburbs of Richmond, Virginia.
This quiet, free park in Midlothian sits on top of America's very first commercial coal mine.
But when most people think of coal mining, they think of the mountains of West Virginia. But the real beginnings of the American coal mining industry started right here in Midlothian.
We're at Midlothian Mines Park in Midlothian, Virginia. And before we even start walking the trails, we want to give you a little context because the history here fueled the growth of the United States.
Coal was first discovered in this area of Chesterfield County all the way back in 1701. A man named Colonel William Byrd noted coal deposits along the James River, and the quality was so good that even Thomas Jefferson mentioned it by name in his Notes on Virginia.
By 1730, a full 46 years before the Declaration of Independence, commercial coal mining was in full swing here.
And when the Revolutionary War broke out, these mines supplied the cannon factory in Westham, just outside of Richmond, with fuel to make shots and shells for the Continental Army.
The British General Phillips knew it too. In 1781, he marched his troops in and destroyed the coal pits specifically to cripple the American war effort. That's how important this place was. By the early 1800s, this area was booming. Mining communities grew up around these pits. The town of Midlothian was actually called Coalfield Station back then, which tells you everything you need to know about what drove life here.
In 1831, just 55 years after the Revolution, Chesterfield built the second commercial railroad in the entire United States, a 13-mile line running from these mines all the way down to the wharves at Manchester. And there was a clever part. It was powered by mules and gravity. Loaded coal cars rolled downhill to the river. Empty cars were pulled back up by the mules. Simple, brilliant. It was once reported to be the most profitable railroad in the world.
By 1835, the Midlothian Coal Mining Company was chartered, sitting on over 400 acres right here. And at its peak, this area was producing 75,000 tons of coal a year from 7 or 8 major mines, all operating simultaneously.
And the workers, something really interesting happened underground here that didn't happen anywhere else in the antebellum South. It would have been unheard of above ground. But underneath it, paid white workers, free black workers, and enslaved people all worked side by side in the shafts. But it was just the reality of getting the work done.
Now, here's something we didn't know before we visited. You've probably heard of Tredegar Iron Works in Richmond. It supplied 80% of the ordnance used by the Confederacy during the Civil War.
Every cannon, every shell. And what fueled those furnaces? Coal from right here.
But the story here isn't all industrial triumph. It's also deeply human and sometimes heartbreaking. Throughout the mid 1800s, a series of explosions rocked these mines.
The underground labyrinths were dangerous. Methane gas, unpredictable rock, flooding. It's estimated that at least 359 men lost their lives to explosions alone in this region's mine.
The single worst moment came on February 3rd, 1882. An explosion tore through the Grove shaft. 32 men were trapped underground. It made national headlines, and the mines never fully recovered. The coal seams were thinning, the explosions had scared off workers, and coal mining here gradually wound down. By the 1930s, the last operations had finally closed.
The land sat largely forgotten until 2004, when it was donated to Chesterfield County and opened as a public park. Since then, the state of Virginia has done remarkable restoration work, closing dangerous abandoned shafts, stabilizing ruins, and turning what once was a hazard into something you can actually walk safely through and learn from. The park even won a national award in 2018 for that reclamation work. If you're enjoying this exploration, go ahead and hit subscribe. We find places like this all the time, and you don't want to miss them.
We got much of our information about the history of this place from the park's website. There you can also find a documentary about the history of coal mining in Midlothian that has lots of great information if you want to dig deeper. Now let's show you what it actually looks like to walk through here.
We went through the tunnel.
Which just kind of felt like a mine shaft all by itself. It's so dark, and then you just had that light at the end of the tunnel. It was pretty neat.
It was a little creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now we're heading across the bridge and we're back in the trees, and there's Daylight, so it's better. So, what's the park actually like today? Honestly, it's peaceful, beautiful, even.
The park covers 44 acres of woodland trails. You'll find the cut stone ruins of the old mine structures, and they're striking. These aren't crumbling piles of brick. These are well built stonework ruins that make you feel like you're walking through something from another century, because you are.
There's a 400-seat amphitheater. There's Loch Lothian Lake, which is lovely for a quiet walk.
And the best part, it's completely free. Open every day, 6 a.m. to 8:30 p.m., right off North Woolridge Road in Midlothian. Easy to find, free parking, and you could spend anywhere from 45 minutes to a couple hours here, depending on how deep you want to go.
What's really cool about this trail is learning so much more of the context around this area, thanks to these great markers that give us some history of what was happening. For our audience, especially if you love history or you just want a peaceful outdoor experience with real depth to it, this is absolutely worth the trip.
What strikes us most about this place is how quietly it holds this enormous story. America's Industrial Revolution didn't start in a factory up north, it started in the ground, right here in Virginia, worked by people of every background whose stories are only now being fully told.
Midlothian Mines Park is one of those parks that rewards curiosity. Go slow, read the exhibits, and let the history sink in. If you've been to the park or this video made you want to go to the park, tell us in the comments.
And if you're new to this channel, we go to these kinds of places all the time. So subscribe and come along with us.
See you later.